Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 57.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey. I'm here today, and I am excited. Yes, again, I know, right? It's another episode. How can he be excited? Because if you've been paying attention, we've had some incredible guests week after week after week, and they've been sharing some of the most important and potent information that allows you and I to go out there and continue to build our cash flow. Yes, cash flow is what we're about here, and more importantly, many of you know that we do it through real estate. Now, not every one of you is interested in real estate, but you're still interested in cash flow, the benefits it provides, and how it can make you live a better life. Now, here's the point. For those of you that are looking to learn about how to build cash flow using real estate, you're going to go over to learninvestingnow.com. That's the place for you. Name and email, get your free course, get started today. For those of you who say, you know what, I am ready. I don't want to learn anymore. I am ready for some experiential learning and some action. Guess what we've got? We've got cash flow, investor-ready properties sitting there waiting for you over at begininvestingnow.com. Now, for those of you listening on your phone, just send a text. The word is cash flow to 38470. Again, the word is cash flow to 38470. And you can go over and begin getting notifications when properties are sitting there ready and waiting for you. Enough of that. Now, today's guest. I am telling you right now, you are going to be excited. You're going to be ready to take action. And I know that he's got lots, and I mean lots, of credible, competent information that you're going to be able to use. He's recently been able to come up with a new book, if you will, in the sense that it's new to you because you may not have heard it, but it's been making waves, big splashes. It's a bestseller in 2 different categories. The title of the book, just so that you know, is Conscious Millionaire, Grow Your Business by Making a Difference. And you guys know that I love to make a difference, not just make a dollar. So do me a favor and welcome Mr. JV Crum III. JV, are you there?
I am here. Jay Massey, I am excited to be on this call with you today.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing some time with us so that we might be able to become more conscious about what it is that we are doing when it goes out there to create cash flow, sir. Thank you very, very much for that. Now,
well, I'm excited to get started. What do you want to talk about first, Jay Massey?
I know, right? You've got so many things coming across, and I mean, I know we were talking before, and you talked about how we can use money. You talked about risk factors. You talked about so many things because you've got a wide range of experience. Now, for the 3 or 4, maybe 5 people who haven't heard of you, could you do us a favor? Kind of give us what I call it. I say it the same way every time. I was like, can you tell us, your origin story? I tend to think that entrepreneurs are kind of like superheroes, and superheroes have origins. They start off in, some way. Maybe they get bit by a spider, and then now they're superheroes. So I'm kind of curious a little bit more about how you got started and what you're up to today.
Sure. Well, I'll go over my background a bit. It's an interesting story, and I think it's common that people who grow up, I found a lot of people who grow up and ultimately become, super successful in some way in life, actually started out pretty humbly. Because I grew up out in the country in a little town with 300 or 400 people in the center of Florida, in a little country town. Where there wasn't even a stoplight. There was a little blinker. How small was it, you ask? Well, there was a little hardware store, and in the back of the hardware store, there was a little section 10 by 10 that was actually the post office. So
wow.
that gives you, but there was this 4 by 5 by a lake. So I grew up creating little sand castles and getting my feet cut on the mussels in the lake and skiing, and actually with a cane pole. I don't even know how to use any other pole. A cane pole with little worms catching brim and bass, and we'd cut those up and fry them at night. So that's the kind of world I grew up in. And my family just constantly had financially challenges, as a lot of the little families in town did. My father was in farming and citrus, and that was so weather dependent that he would have 100 acres of a crop, and if something went wrong with the weather, you just lost it, because even if you were trying to irrigate things, you could have the wind. I mean, all kinds of things could happen. Citrus, you could have freezes. My mother was a school teacher. So by 5, there was this magical day in my life in which it became clear to me, because I kept going, wow, what is the answer to this? I mean, because I was already tired of having all these financial struggles and listening to the little fights about money, and really going to the grocery store and having to be really tight. I knew not to ask for anything. I mean, I knew not to do that. And one day I got the answer, and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a millionaire. And it was so strong, so clear, so complete for me. It was like I'd had a vision. And from that day on, I completely believed it so strongly. It was like a destiny that just hadn't completely happened, but inside it felt like it already had. And I ran into the house that day, looked up at my mom and dad, and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a millionaire. And I remember my mom shaking her finger at me and saying, don't tell anyone. And as a little kid, of course, I went around and told everybody, because that's right. But when I sat down to write my book, I said, well, what was the reason? Because my mom certainly had my best interest at heart. Why did she say such a thing? And really, probably some people on this call can relate to this, because we've got this mixed up message in our country that to be a good person, somehow you need to be broke or poor or at best middle class, but certainly not doing well. And we lived catty corner to the little church in town with, I think there were about 60 people who went. And we were the family who kind of ran the church, and we went 3 times a week, even if we were the only people there on Wednesday night. So my mother, it was clear to me, had this view that I think a lot of people share, that if you had that much money, you had to have done something wrong. You had to be cheating people or lying or stealing or doing business in a way that wasn't completely above board. And I think that's what her message to me was, but that probably had something to do with why we had so much struggles. Because inside, so many people have a mindset that says it's just not quite okay to be wealthy, to really drive the Mercedes, to have the beautiful home, to take the vacations and stay at a 5-star hotel. For a lot of people, if they're honest, that's just not completely congruent with their belief systems and their values. And I'm here to tell you that abundance is a natural state of being, that I believe the world is naturally abundant, and that we create our abundance by adding value to other people's lives. And there is nothing better than adding value to another person's life.
Oh.
So that's how I grew up, with this vision, I'm going to be a millionaire. And then when I was finishing my first graduate degree, I had a master's in clinical psych, and I was thinking of going to law school, which later I did. But I came home to see my dad, and he was always so optimistic, and these companies were just basically on the verge of bankruptcy. And so he said, will you come home and work with me and help me? And so at 23, I basically took over our trucking lines and completely redid everything. And what was interesting is I didn't know, because I had purposely never taken a course in business. I've never read any business books or articles on business, because what I got growing up was, oh my gosh, you want to do something other than business, because business must lead to just endless struggles financially. It's not the way for someone to make money. Again, how we get those mixed messages set up, right? But it turned out, when I was a little kid, I was always starting a little business. I had a little business at 4. I got a little pup tent for my birthday, and we had a tangerine tree. And my grandmother lived with us, and we saved up egg cartons. Now, this was 1960s. So I'm here to tell you, a dime was actually a fair amount of money for a high school kid back then. And I set up my pup tent, and I've seen pictures of me, and I'm just saying I was a cute little kid. And I kind of inside knew I needed to capitalize on this. So I set up my pup tent where the school bus let out. And all day long, I would make these little tangerine-filled egg cartons that I'm sure the kids threw away. But I got them to pay me a dime. And that was my first. So that was my first entrepreneur. I had a lawn mowing, business. My dad did peanuts. So at 7, we boiled peanuts, and Dad helped me, and I'd bag them up and I'd go around town selling them for a dime. I guess I liked a dime back then. But I did have one job in my lawn mowing business with this little apartment building with hedges, and I got $5. I thought I was so rich to save that $5 every week. It's like, oh my, and I saved every penny of it. I didn't spend any of it. My parents would take me, once I had an allowance, they'd take me and they go, don't you want to get a fountain drink? And I go, nope, I'm saving my money, because I got early on, hey, you need to save your money because that's the only way you're going to have some cash. And I was a little kid who never wanted to spend anything. All I wanted to do was figure out how to make some money. So it's interesting that I didn't get that I was actually an entrepreneur. See, I never picked that up because I was thinking, oh, business isn't the way to do anything. But here I was creating one little business after another. And so I started running the trucking lines, and I just put systems in. I didn't know that word then. And I remember the 3rd month, we were hauling like hundreds of loads a week. But there was no money in the bank, and I couldn't figure that out. And so I sat down all weekend, and I went over all the numbers. And this will sound, almost funny. It's almost hilarious when I look back how I described it. But I remember calling my dad up and going, "Oh, Dad, I figured out the problem. Every week we take in less money than we pay out." Now, it's kind of like the big duh, but that really was the problem. So Monday I called clients and I started saying, "Hey, we want to pull your loads, but we need increases." I got as much as 25% increase on Monday. And then I said, oh, all these suppliers are kind of taking advantage of Dad, because I found out what was wrong. My dad was actually a good entrepreneur, but he wasn't a good business guy, only because he was just this really good-hearted person and people would take advantage of him. And so I realized that, and I started calling all the suppliers, and I said, hey, we're going to get together and look at your prices and what you're doing, because I think you're overcharging. I was pretty brazen. I was 23. I was kind of a little kick-ass guy. I wasn't going to take no from anybody. Right. So then by the 4th month, I realized everybody fixing the trucks and trailers were taking advantage of us, and they were keeping things for days, and we were losing all the money that we could from loads. So I said, Dad, what we need to do is we need to open up our own maintenance company. So boom, the next week, we leased a piece of property with a building on it, hired 2 maintenance guys, started doing preventive maintenance. And by the end of 6 months, things had really turned around a lot. I also discovered there were about 9 years of liens on the company Dad hadn't quite mentioned, but I kept it in the mail. And it wasn't that he didn't want to pay the bills. I mean, this is the thing. I want people to hear this. Most people who are having financial problems, what I've discovered, it's not like they're bad people. They have good intentions. It's just if the money isn't there, you can't write the check.
Right.
And that's what you're helping people with Cash Flow Diary, is helping them say, hey, that doesn't have to be the case. No. You can have the money and you can write the check, because this is something, it's a little off of what you asked me about, but and I was talking to someone yesterday about this, and I'm not saying there's 10% that's bad. I'm saying that at least 90%, and I've done a lot of business, I would say at least 90% of the people I've ever done business with were good, solid, honest people who just wanted to do good business, and they just wanted to make money as a business owner, and they had the best of intentions. That's my experience, that most people actually are good. It's a small number of people who aren't. And when you take a good person and you teach them how to create the cash flow, what you now have is a person who can be more conscious. They can help their fellow man. They can give to causes they care about. They can send their kids to college. They can prepare for their retirement, because that's what most people really want. It's just as basic as that. And they have the best of intentions. And that's why I think it's so great what you're doing with Cash Flow Diary. So that year, I turned everything around, had a 6-figure profit. By the 3rd year, I had months where we were making 6 figures in a month. And I had become, kind of overnight rich for all practical purposes, created the first million by 25, had the beautiful home on the water, the Mercedes. And I had learned a lot about business in the process of doing that, because I had to figure out what wasn't working. And I just got everything, really, when I look back, I got everything highly systemized so we'd figure out what worked. And we just did it over and over and over and over again. And I think that's pretty much what you're doing.
Yes, I think that's the path of every entrepreneur. But you said so many key things, but for those that are willing to take the risk of getting it wrong so that they can learn the skill set of how to get it right,
Yeah,
and keep
I
moving.
agree. Absolutely. I think the biggest things that I've learned, I'm curious about you, have been from my failures, not
Oh
from my
God, yes.
successes.
There are times where I don't like getting that we closed transactions today. It's like, yay, it closed. There was no problems. I'm like, okay, but we didn't learn anything. We didn't grow. I mean, you talk about those small percentage of people. I think those small percentage of people, what happens is that it catches us unaware when they do something that we're not expecting, and it hurts so bad. Because I can remember a few years ago where we had an individual that was able to embezzle literally 800 grand. And that was not a simple thing to swallow or learn to recover from or learn to keep pushing forward. But there were so many lessons. The company is so much stronger. I am so much stronger. My wife, everything has come from that. That's been amazing to be able to see, but you've got to be willing to put yourself out there to that level so that you can grow and hold and handle that much responsibility. And all of those things have come together. One of the things that you did say, though, that I think is interesting is that you at age 5 managed to do something that most people never get done. And that's called you made a decision and you stuck with what it is that you said you were going to do. I'm curious, how did you do that?
Well, I think I remember exactly where I was standing. I was standing next to the neighbor's kumquat tree. It was country. We had the tangerine tree, and they had the kumquat tree. And my dad did oranges, so we had plenty of little fruit. And it just hit me. It was like a vision came over me. I felt it in my body. I can still remember it as I talk about it. That it was just like a profound insight. I was thinking about what is this problem that we're always having difficulty with money?
Yeah.
My parents were very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the issue. And it just hit me that the answer was grow up and become a millionaire. And I was sold the moment I said it. I said it out loud. And that's when I didn't stand there very long. I ran in the house because I had found Eureka. I had found water.
Right.
And I wanted to inform my parents with what the answer to life was, and it was grow up and be a millionaire.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I was so clear about it. Although there was another piece to that story, and that was at 25, it only took me 3 months. I remember particularly of living in this beautiful home, brand new home, 4 stories, luxury townhouse on the water, the Mercedes, and it all of a sudden hit me that I had programmed myself to be the millionaire, but I had forgotten something that was even more important. I had not programmed myself to find meaning. And I realized that now I can say at 25 because it was me, I still didn't know how to have a good relationship. I still didn't even like myself. And I think if a lot of people in their 20s are honest, they haven't yet come to the place of liking themselves, loving themselves, feeling comfortable in their own skin. I certainly didn't have any of that. And I said to myself pretty quickly, I said, well, a good bottle of wine is better than a bad bottle of wine. And that's true. That's absolutely true. In fact, I collect wine now, so I love wine. But the truth was I didn't know what the meaning part was that was related to money. And I spent another 15 years of going off to all kinds of retreats, to personal development, to spiritual retreats, looking for what's the money and meaning connection. And that's when I decided to sell the trucking lines because I wasn't finding meaning because I wasn't doing my purpose. Right. I wasn't doing something that I knew how to do it. It made money, but I didn't get up in the morning jazzed and passionate and exciting and feeling like what I was doing was making this huge difference in the world. And I realized how important that piece was. And skipping a few years, having sold the companies, I went off on personal journeys. I'd camp out. I was living in Colorado for 2 and 3 weeks at a time, just asking and searching and trying to find the answer. Why am I here? How can I take my talents and skills? How can I make some difference in the world and create my financial fortune that I want?
Awesome.
And in another day, actually in a hot tub, I'm a hot tub kind of guy, I was looking down at a brochure. It happened to be for a green festival. So to explain why the word conscious was in there. And I had been thinking for a couple of years, I want to create a millionaire program for people, but I know you're going to know exactly what I mean. I don't want it to be one of those smoke and mirrors,
Right.
fast answer that really was vapid. And the truth is, a lot of those programs, the person who makes the money is the one selling the box.
Right.
And I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. And when I saw the word conscious, it's just, oh my gosh, I immediately got that same feeling I had as a little 5-year-old when I'm going to be a millionaire. I got this tingling on my spine, and I knew right then that what had been revealed to me in that moment was my purpose and destiny, and it was Conscious Millionaire. And knowing how the world and the universe works, I didn't worry that consciousmillionaire.com was taken. I stood in the hot tub for actually another 40 minutes and reveled that what I had been searching for, I had now found because I knew it, just like I did as a 5-year-old. I got out, I took consciousmillionaire.com. Being a good attorney, I filed my trademarks pretty quickly. I now get trademarked in 25 countries and counting. And then in an aside, we were talking about 6 months later, I got the rest of my purpose. I got the phrase conscious world, which I also took all the URLs and trademarked it. And that's now Conscious World Foundation, where I'm moving towards being in 160 countries, helping youth become conscious leaders and living the principle I've created called Triple Win, you, others, and society winning together, so that all over the world we have youth growing up believing that everybody's supposed to win in this world, and that we all have an obligation to do our part. And so that's become just as passionate for me as Conscious Millionaire. And they're really intertwined, because that's what I teach entrepreneurs, is that you're here to live your purpose. You're here to make your difference. You're here to live with abundance and financial fortune. And because you do that, you're now in a position to help everybody else win as well, because we all have an obligation to give back. That's part of what I teach. It's what my parents taught me every day. It might as well have been painted on the wall. And my parents lived that part tremendously through all of their civic obligations. And my dad was big in Kiwanis, and things that they got involved with was always teaching me that. And so Conscious Millionaire kind of brings it all together and says, hey, you can build your business that way, or you can create your investments that way, so they're making a difference, and you can create a financial fortune. There's nothing incongruent. In fact, one serves the other.
Indeed. And that's one of the things that I love about your message, and the fact that it's so clear. And for those of you listening, I hope if this is your first show, go back and listen to some of the others, because you will hear so many similarities. We've got some of the absolute business movers and shakers who are sharing with you what it takes to go out there and make things happen. And you've heard me talk about how you don't do real estate just to make money. You do it to make a difference, and you choose a demographic that you want to serve, and you serve them the best way you know how at the moment with the resources that you have. And then you get better, and then you get better, and then you attract better talent and better teams and better systems. And you continue this process until one day you just wake up and go, wow, how did that happen? It's because of who you were inside to begin with. And these are the things that get me excited, because that's why I keep doing, real estate, because that's where my genius comes alive. That's where my creative intent is. And you can hear this in JV. You can hear clearly that he's on a mission, not just out to earn money. That's the difference. And when we can make that switch, that focus, that I think that's very, very key. Now, JV, I've heard this saying, and many times, we hear sayings and we give them absolutely no weight, or we hear them so frequently they go, oh, well, that again. I'm curious to know what you would say, because I've heard it said that you should strive to be a millionaire, not for the money, but because of whom it'll make of you on the way.
Oh, I absolutely agree. In fact, I'm very open about it, and I have a ways to go, which is exciting. Is that to me, it's not even a goal, because if you see how I talk about things, to me, it's already occurred inside.
Right.
And that is that I want to have a net worth of 100 million. And I'm quite clear. I spent a lot of time realizing, because I've had actually people give me grief. Why don't you want to be a billionaire? Because I don't want to be a billionaire. I want 100 million. I know exactly why I want 100 million. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. I know why I want to get there. And I want to build this nonprofit in 160 countries and touch millions upon millions of youth, because that's an even larger legacy, because it touches, the whole world. And so the personal growth reason for wanting 100 million is absolutely all the change I have to go through in order to get that, all the skills I have to develop, all the fears I have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've been saying, because I speak, is that I certainly haven't spoken to a crowd of 10,000 people yet. But in my mind, I have done that so many times. And I know before ever I'm on a speech, a lot of times, even before I'm interviewed on podcasts or radios, there's that 2 or 3 minutes where you just kind of get really nervous and you go, stupid stuff, right? Like I wrote, like, oh, what if I can't remember anything I want to talk about? You know, say all these crazy things to yourself. You know, we all have those insecurities, no matter where we're at. You know, so I know that probably a half hour before I go out on stage in front of 10,000 people, I'll probably want to practically throw up or something. I'll be like scared, like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Right?
I can relate 100%. It was a few years ago, but Robert Kiyosaki invited me to come speak, and I didn't know how many people were going to be there. And my wife and I showed up, and then there were 4,000 present, and I was like, okay, here we go. But what I didn't know is that it was being broadcast to 90 countries simultaneously. And then when I'm so glad I found that out after we got off stage. You have no idea, because I could.
That was actually good that you didn't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was perfect. I was happy with that. Now you mentioned something though that I found very, very key, because many times people miss this. They come to me and say, Jay, how do I do a deal? How do I do a deal? And they don't focus so much on what happens once you've got the deal done. And I love how you speak in the present tense, as if the things that should occur in the future are already here, because that's very, very true, very, very relevant for so many of us. My question to you, though, is you're so clear, and I love that. Clarity brings power, the power to decide and act. You know exactly what you're going to do with it. You know what you're going to do with the money today, and I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing it. You also mentioned, though, that you can use money in 3 different ways. I would love for you to share that with everyone.
Well, yeah, you know, I sat down, writing a book. I have to say, writing a book was one of the more painful things I've ever done in my life.
Say that again, because I believe you.
Yeah, because I'm like going, somewhere there's somebody who actually enjoyed writing the book, but I was not that person. I'm thrilled with the book now that it's done. I really like what I wrote, and I'm proud of it. But I wrote this book over 7 years, and I wrote it 7 different times because I wanted a book that could change people's lives. I wasn't willing to put something out there that was anything but the best I could had in me. And so a lot of things that are sometimes presented on a couple of pages, I would spend 6 months thinking about that concept alone. And so I asked myself, for all the hoopla, especially in this country, over money, what is it we can actually do with it? And when I sat and analyzed and analyzed and analyzed, I came up with there are only 3 things you can even do with money. And once you understand that, then it's a very simple path to make some decisions. So I want to take people through that process real quickly. Is that there are 3 things. I'll give you what they are, and then we'll go back and look at it. The first one is you can pay for your lifestyle. That's everything. That's your home, your car, your vacations, the college for your kids. It's the way you live on a day-to-day basis. Your wealth determines the level of lifestyle that you can choose. Second, you can invest for the future. And so you can invest so you have the money put aside for your children to go to college. You have the money so that when you get to retirement, you've got the cash flow coming in. You are prepared to live at the lifestyle that you want to continue having in retirement. And the third thing is you can use money to give back to others. In my case, I wanted to create a nonprofit, but there's specific causes I also give to. So you may have causes, your church, individuals. You may want to support your parents because they weren't as fortunate as you're going to now be, because you're hearing these kind of messages and you're listening to this. Because let's celebrate the fact that you're listening to this right now because you've already made a decision to make something more out of your life. And that I want to congratulate you, because I'm certain you will. Because the moment you make that decision, you're going to keep attracting ideas, and you're going to act on those ideas, and you're going to get results. And whether they're the results you wanted or not, you're going to learn from it. You're going to move to the next result. So you're going to have money to give back to others. So paying for your lifestyle, investing for your future, and giving back to others. This is it. That's all that can be done with money. Once you know that, then the next question to ask yourself is, on an annual basis, how much money do you need over the next year to pay for your lifestyle, in order to put money aside for your future, and in order to give back to others now? How much money do you need? And then the final question is, do you want to keep working in order to fund that money? Or do you want to have investments that provide you the cash flow that will fund the money that you need in each of those three buckets? That's how simple it is to begin to move forward in a way that you can have the financial destiny that you want and start living it right now today.
Agreed. 100%. Many people ask me, how did that, every person that I run into who's achieved anything has their own process or version of what you just said in so many different ways. And either consciously or unconsciously, we put ourselves and we go through that exact thing. And we get very, very clear on what we want, our own buckets, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, why we're going to do it. Like Simon Sinek said, starting with why, and making our process fit all the way through. Now, I'm certain that particular concept is part of your book. Is there anything else that's inside your book right now that you think would help make a difference for the person going, man, you know what? I would like to get started. I would like to be able to go to that next level. Maybe they've gotten their first, taste of cash flow. Maybe they've gotten their first royalty check, or maybe they're looking, how can they begin to build those streams of income? What is it that you see?
Well, I want to give you, when you asked that, I was thinking, well, God, there's so many different pieces we could talk about, but kind of starting at assuming that someone is somewhere between the struggle part and the part where they're beginning to make some money and they want to go to another level. Mm-hmm. So let's say somebody's somewhere in those two places. I have 7 financial strategies, and I'd like to go over those because they will give you some big picture with specific actions that you can begin taking right now, that I guarantee you, if you put these 7 financial strategies to work in your life today, you are going to have significant more money 12 months from now than if you didn't use these. I can absolutely guarantee that.
All right. I think they're listening now.
Okay. So number 1 is, the way you create massive wealth is by providing massive value.
Yep.
And I want to chunk down in this one particularly because I want to describe the 3 different ways that entrepreneurs, investors approach value. There's the investor or the entrepreneur who says, I want to give $1 of value for every dollar I choose. And when you hear that, it sounds like a pretty good thing. You've probably heard it a number of times. But I want you to know right up front that will make you money, but it's not the best way to make money. Now, I know that all of us have probably had the unfortunate experience of encountering someone, or perhaps you even know of someone, who has this, what I would call, misguided view that they should give a dime of value for every dollar they get. In other words, they're out to get the benefit of everything. I mean, you see them walking down the street towards you, and you go, oh my God, you don't even want to have a conversation with them, because you know that in one conversation you're going to try to get something more out of you than they're going to give to you. Right? And we all have a picture in our mind of someone like that, or an experience we've had. Well, here's what I want to tell you, because we hear, especially in the internet world, that this person became an internet millionaire in a year. But when you look at how they became the internet millionaire, it was what I call selling the box that didn't have too much in it, and they charged $1,000 or $2,000 for it. And probably everybody's had some experience at some level with that. Now, so I will say, can you make money doing that? Yeah, but only for a short period of time, because you're going to need to change brands, change audiences, because within 2 or 3 years, especially in the world we live in, when all anybody has to do is tweet or put something on Facebook, the world's going to learn pretty quickly that you're not somebody to do business with, because you're in it 100% for you, and you want to, let's just call it what it is, take advantage of people, right? That is not the path to long-term wealth. I can guarantee you it. That is not the best way. So then you go, okay, we want to provide massive value. So the path to long-term wealth, where you're really going to build a great reputation, is when you're beginning with the idea you're going to give at least 5 to 10 times value. For every dollar that you get, you're going to give someone $5 to $10 in value. So it may be that you're just giving them a way to leverage themselves better. You're giving them relationships that they wouldn't have. Or you're providing a product that costs $20, but it saves them $200 by using it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when you're really going to create wealth, because you ask yourself, it's pretty simple. Who do you want to do business with? Is it somebody that when you give them $1, you're going to get $10 back some way? Or you save that much time and energy and your life is that much better? It's not $1 better, it's $10 better. So you create massive wealth actually by providing massive value. So that's your first strategy. The second one is you always choose opportunities that match your values and your business purpose, because this helps you stay on track. Every day, if you're really vigilant, and certainly even if you're just partly vigilant every week, we're constantly having all these opportunities, and I call them little shiny objects coming around. and it's not like the opportunity isn't a good opportunity. The problem is you only want opportunities that are the right opportunities for you. And as I say, no matter how good that opportunity is, if it doesn't fit your particular values, if it's not aligned with the purpose of your business, what you're in business to do, then it's not the right opportunity for you. And it's only going to take you off track. And instead of creating more momentum, it's going to reduce your momentum because you're going down a side stream instead of going straight forward. So you always want to just choose the opportunities that fit your values and your business purpose. And that alone can save a lot of people a lot of inertia, spending money on the wrong thing, and instead of building their business and massively growing quickly. So the third one, I love this because I talk a lot about getting in the flow, being in the zone. I think everybody's had an experience where everything just seemed to naturally happen right for them that day.
Yes.
I had a day like that, and I go, okay, that's going with the flow. So take actions that go with the flow, not against it. So notice what's occurring all around you and what's the direction that things are naturally headed, and go with that direction. So if, for example, right now, we're looking at mobility. I'm sure you're probably looking at that. A lot of people are, because in the next year and a half, we're going to go from 2 billion people with smartphones to 3.5 billion with smartphones. And we're completely redoing all of our landing pages and all of our websites so that everything's 100% mobility. We're looking at putting together our own little app so that people can get Conscious Millionaire information on demand every day, because that's the direction things are going. So you could go in a different direction if you wanted, but this is the direction that the money is going to be made. So you need to notice where the flow is headed, and you need to be going in that direction. So that's number 3.
Yep.
Number 4, consider both the downside risk and the upside potential. And I bet you run into this all the time, because people want to go, oh, this house could make me this much money. Right? That's great. But now have you considered what might happen if you don't find a renter for 3 months?
Yes.
Or it turns out the inspection wasn't right and the roof needs to be replaced.
Yes.
Or the pipes might have some drips that you didn't know about.
Yes.
Because if you don't consider those and factor them in, you know you're going to end up with a bad deal that costs you money. It's not bringing you cash flow.
The funny thing about that one, I just just yesterday, someone came to me. They're like, I got this, apartment building, because they know that's primarily what we do. It's apartment buildings and commercial. And they go, I got this apartment building, and it's all 1 bedrooms, and we're going to send it, and it's going to be for the Veterans Administration. And now in general, you're thinking, yeah, that sounds great. They're looking for 1 bedrooms. Here's a 1 bedroom apartment, but you got issues. It's a single point of failure. They're the only buyer when it comes to 1 bedrooms in that particular marketplace. And it's just like, you don't necessarily want to have 100% 1 bedrooms. And it was the fastest conversation. I'm sure they were like, what do you mean it's not good? I'm like, well, it's not good for me. It might be good for you, but it's not good for me. And for that one reason right there alone. But being clear on these things allows you to make decisions that much faster, and therefore you can sift through the opportunities and take the one that match much quicker. Okay. Now, if you're like me, you're enjoying this particular episode, and you know that there's a lot more to go. You probably noticed that, hey, wow, this one is a long one. You're right. There was so much to share and so much to talk about. that when you get, hanging around the right individuals, it just keeps going and going. And hopefully you're finding the value that's there. Now, I'm going to be quick because as many of you know, we've been taking a break from our cash flow question. It will return. It will return. I'm just still excited about the upcoming release of the book. It's almost here. And those of you who want to get the copies or the sample chapters, you have two things that you can do. You can go to cashflowdiary.com/book. That's primarily there. You'll see a quick video. You'll be able to get some sample chapters. And for those of you who already know, you're like, look, this book's going to be great. Cool. Go ahead and make your purchase. I definitely would appreciate that. They will be signed. Those of you who want the sample chapters, feel free that you can go to the same website, or if you're just listening right now on your phone or some other device and you're not in front of the computer, whip out that cell phone. Type in, you're going to send a text to the word is sample, SAMPLE. And you're going to send that to 949-682-3565, 949-682-3565. And then we'll be able to go ahead and email you the sample chapters and you'll be able to get started reading it there. Would love to hear from those of you who have already downloaded these sample chapters. Feel free to send in some comments and thoughts, the things that you may have learned already or been able to take action on. It's coming soon, guys. It's almost here. Let's get back to the interview.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. So let's move on to number 5. Make financial decisions that fit your risk comfort range. And you and I were talking a little bit about that before, and we can talk about risk more if you'd like. Every person has a risk comfort range of what they're willing to take risk on. And if you are someone who's really just comfortable at a 1 or a 2, you want something that's almost certain and government guaranteed, and you go out here and you invest in some, say, a new company that has no cash flow, that may or may not make it, and you put a chunk of your money in that, you are probably not going to sleep at night. It is probably for you not the right decision to make. Or if you're going to take something where the leverage is beyond what you're comfortable with in a real estate deal, then you're not going to be able to sleep with that. So you need to be honest with yourself up front in any investment, any business decision you make. Is this risk something that I'm really comfortable with? And if you are, then evaluate it like we just talked about. Look at both the downside risk and the upside potential. Look at both sides of it. But if it's not comfortable for you, don't do it. It will always blow up. You'll never be able to hold it to, say you need to hold that piece of real estate for 5 years for it to really work out. You're going to freak out in year 2 and sell it at a loss. Right?
Yeah. Well, those are the ones I end up buying. But yes, you're absolutely those are the things that create opportunity. Where there's chaos, there's cash flow, and people who don't make that decision up front. That's exactly true. But I've got a question for you on this one.
Sure.
What about the desire to expand that comfort zone and become more comfortable with something more than what we've been used to?
If you're going to do that, my experience is you're going to need to do it incrementally. In other words, one little step at a time.
Yeah.
And with each of those steps outside of your current comfort zone, you're going to need to honestly look at what your beliefs are, and those beliefs need to shift.
Yep.
I remember the person I'm working with as a mentor. Within 2 to 3 months, my target was to make 2 to 3 million profit a year. Okay. And within 3 months, I'm going, wait a minute. He's told me enough things that he's doing, and all of it seems pretty logical to me. Granted, you got to figure it out. But, I'm a smart guy. I could figure it out. And I changed my goal to 10 million profit in a year. That's a huge change. Now, it may take me 10, 15 years to get there. It might, I'm thinking as I said that, it might be closer to 15. But I expanded from 2 to 3 million to 10 million. And when I did that, I started thinking of different kinds of opportunities. Like I'm going to Asia this year, looking at taking Conscious Millionaire to Asia. Now, maybe I wouldn't have looked at that before, but if I'm going, hey, if I'm going to get to 10 million, how am I going to do that? Right. Well, there's 10 times as many people, and there are a lot of entrepreneur programs that are working well in Asia. Why don't I go over there and have meetings with people who could help me bring it over there? And it also brings you to a principle that it's better to have a bigger pie that you still own a lot of than to have a little pie and you're not giving away any of the revenue. So right now I'm actively looking at options with different people of ways that they might get, say 20% of the revenue off of something, but I still end up with 80% and we produce it, but they've helped introduce me to something.
Right.
And so you start thinking differently, but incrementally. But I guess the other thing I would say is change your goal level.
Yep.
Yeah, change your goal level and just realize you're not going to do it all in 12 months.
Right? I often tell people there's no such thing as an unrealistic goal, just unrealistic timeframes. And I agree with you so very much. It's just amazing how similar so many things are, regardless of the industry, in order to be able to create the results that we're after. Okay, keep going, though. Keep going. I don't want to stop.
So number 7 is check your instincts before acting. And I work a lot with myself. I work with entrepreneurs and helping them fine-tune their intuition. Men and women have great intuition. It's in your body. And I teach people how to notice what sensory parts, visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, within their body are occurring when their gut level or their instincts are correct or they're on track. And so everybody has a way of checking in. If something doesn't feel right, there's a reason. It doesn't mean that you abandon it, but it might be as simple as changing the time frame. Or maybe there's 3 or 4 players, but one of them doesn't feel quite right to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe doing the deal the way it's currently structured, you go, that's not quite right.
Right.
If you change the structure of the deal, then you'd get an internal check that said, oh, this feels good now.
Yep. Did that with a 10-unit building. I had originally negotiated an all-cash purchase, and then after doing some additional work, I was like, that doesn't work. And then we went back and negotiated a lower price and all these other things so that we could get to make it work as opposed to just running away. I like what you're talking about there, because that happens so many times to people when they're beginning to build cash flow, buy assets, or even create an asset, i.e. a business, where we're looking at it going, oh, this is going to be a problem. And then we just walk the other way too many wrong times instead of investigating just a little bit further and figuring out how to make something work. And I love everything that you're bringing, because I often tell people that no person on this planet has a money problem. Every person has an idea problem, and you've just gone through 7 different ways to create, to think and to have the ideas be able to bring you what it is necessary so that you can go out there and provide, more in use value than you take in cash value, or that massive, because massive wealth does come from massive value. These are the very things. These are the very tenets why I like to do apartment buildings, because that's more massive value. You're providing more value in an hour than just a single family house. And there's so many things like that.
You know what? I was thinking, we were talking a bit about the downside risk and the upside potential. I find so many people skip over this, and it's a make or break kind of thing. Can we delve down into that just a bit?
Oh, by all means.
So let's look at what I have in measuring risk. There are 3 factors to look at. So the first one we were talking about, really your comfort zone. So I call that your risk appetite. And I look at each of these on a scale of 1 to 10. So if your risk appetite is a 1, which is really, you want super conservative, you want the government to sign a note to you guaranteeing it, then you need to know that that's where you're at. And it may be that you want to buy notes on high income producing properties that have a high safety value.
Right.
So that you might be more comfortable with that. But if you're at a 10, I say if somebody's at a 10, I go, watch out, don't put them on your team. That's probably a little too much, because that's the person that'll spend everything on the company that's not even started, and they don't even own it or have any control over it, but they just think it's a great idea. So a 10's probably too much on the other end. But you need to understand where you really fall in what is your actual risk appetite. And here's the litmus test. It's very simple. Can you sleep at night? If you're going to bed at night worried about something that you have an investment in, whether it's in the stock markets, in real estate, it's your business, if you can't sleep at night, you are way outside of your risk appetite. and you need to, in some cases, just restructure so that it gets into your risk appetite and you can sleep at night.
You know what's so funny about that is that for me, even something as small as $1,000 in paper assets or stock will keep me up. Whereas I could do millions in real estate and sleep all day long simply because of the asset class, and I understand how it works and the controls that are there. It's just I'm laughing at myself because it doesn't have anything to do with the actual dollar amount. It has more to do with understanding how that asset works and how I can actually do something to affect its value and have that control. So this is, I hadn't thought about that before.
I'm going to put a plug in on the side because I looked at, when I was working on my book, I looked and I said, well, how much money have you actually spent on education? And I sat down and on a piece of paper, and I'm not just talking formal. I've got 3 graduate degrees. They did cost money, but I've been in, highly expensive masterminds. I've been to so many different trainings, endless books, endless audio programs, endless home study programs. And I figured out that I had spent at least $350,000 educating myself. Mm-hmm. And part of education is getting control over what you're doing because you know the steps. You go, oh, well, if those are the 10 steps, I might have to tweak them a little bit, but at least now I'm probably at a 90% level. If these have worked for a lot of other people, let me try those out.
Right.
And find out. And that's really what you're talking about. Education really is cheap compared to not getting the education.
Oh, you're going to pay for it one way or the other.
I just came out from 10 days being gone where I spent a total of $6,000 to spend 5 days in San Diego and 5 in New Orleans at 2 different conferences. And when you add up the flights and the hotels and what everything cost, it was right at $6,000. But I brought home ideas and solid strategies that'll make me hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. And we've already started implementing them on day one.
Exactly. And this is what I love so much about being a, American citizen, being in the US, having the ability to do business, period, is when you go somewhere. And I just want to bring this up so that people understand that this is how I feel so strongly about this. I don't care how much the seminar cost, the book cost, the investment is, that is irrelevant. Long as you come away with one, and I do mean one good idea that you implement, it was worth it regardless of the cost, because that idea can be leveraged so many ways. Now, if you get more than one good idea, then you're just on overtime and it's awesome. But I go everywhere I go, I just want one. That's all I need. Just give me one idea. And when I got it, I'm good. I've got my money's worth, and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to implement that idea. Now, like you said, though, oftentimes because we're so receptive and open and looking, we can find multiple ideas because there's so much that, we don't know that we don't know. And then we end up finding out about it. We're like, oh man, we can do all of these things and provide so much more value. And, oftentimes you get a little overwhelmed, but that's where the team comes in to help you execute this stuff. So it's absolutely perfect.
Well, and I look at that exactly what you're talking about as I go, the question isn't how much you spent. And it's the same thing when you're hiring people. I mean, I talk to so many people that seem to be convinced, and I call it bottom feeding, that they need to find someone who will do it for the cheapest price possible. And I'm here to tell you that whatever that is, you probably should be paying 50 to 100% more, but you'll get 300% more when you have a high quality person doing it. Oh. So I go, when I look at, the 6,000, I go, it's not the 6,000, it's the ROI. What's the return on investment? And you hit it on the nail. I agree. It's not just the idea, because the second part you said was it's taking action on that idea.
Indeed. Well, I mean,
and that's what gives you an ROI. So the cost, the question isn't how much is the conference or how much that. I mean, this year I started out, and in my budget, I share a lot of things pretty openly so people know how I'm building. $30,000 of which all but about $4,000 is already allocated and actually been paid for things. Is just for conferences. Just for conferences and training. Connections that I'll make are huge. Yep. And so most people go, I'm not going to spend $30,000 going on conferences. And I go, well, I am, because I expect to get hundreds of $1,000s as a result of just the people I met, not even the content.
Indeed, I can
We
only.
met at we met at a
Yes.
conference, and now we're on a podcast together, right?
Yeah. That's what's so. Well, what's so amazing is that people don't understand the value of that one connection, that one new relationship, and it's not even and it's about being the right person in the right place at the right time, but we skip over being the right person. And we go, oh my God, that's too expensive, I can't go. Well, that's why you're not the right person. Not because you didn't have the money, but because you don't have the right perspective on how to go out there and leverage each and every resource that you have available. I mean, you guys have heard me say it before. We're all given 86,400 seconds every day. That's what you've got to invest with, and that's where you start. And with that, you must develop new talents, new skills, and that's where this personal development comes in. That's the point.
It's the personal development's at the absolute core of everything I teach, everything I do. In fact, I remember about 20 years ago, I couldn't muse on all kinds of strange things. And I asked myself all kinds of questions. And I remember asking if I couldn't grow anymore, if I were told I could live, really well, but I couldn't have any more personal growth, I said I would be willing to leave right then. There's no reason for me to be alive. Wherever it is I'm going next, I just soon go ahead and take care of that and just go over there, because I don't want to be here anymore if I can't grow, because that is the core of what life is about. Everything you do in terms of touching someone else's life or giving back or getting the skills to create the millions that you really want, all of that's the personal growth. And that really is, we touched on that a while back. That's even far more important than the money. Because I can tell you, if you've been making money for a very long period of time, you're going to make it and you're going to lose parts of it, sometimes very painfully. Money will come and go. I guarantee you that investing and being an entrepreneur is not a straight line journey. It is a roller coaster.
Say that again, because they might have been washing dishes or something.
It is a roller coaster. And in fact, I even talk about the entrepreneur, and it would be the same thing in investors' relationships, that you need to have a conversation with whomever you're in a relationship with. And it's even better if you hear this and you're not yet in a relationship. Very early on, and if you're there, you need to sit down and have a relationship with them and be sure that their personality type, that they understand they just signed up for a roller coaster.
Yes.
Because they did. And I have coached so many entrepreneurs that are in a relationship, and men and women, and their partner is a 1 and they're a 7 or an 8. And their partner's freaking out all the time because, are we going to have money? Are we going to lose everything this month? Is this really going to work out? And that's a perfectly valid thing to be concerned about, especially if they're children. Are the children going to have clothes and food? It's a very valid thing. But someone has to be capable, really, and then willing to take this roller coaster ride with you as an investor or as an entrepreneur, because that's what it's going to be. There are going to be buildings that you own that, for whatever reason, the investment's going to blow up.
Yes.
And you can't always predict it.
Nope.
Think of everything that happened when we had the financial crisis. I had so many friends that went from being worth millions to being millions in debt in a year and losing everything. And they were good investors and they made good, sound decisions. But when all of a sudden every note's getting pulled by the banks, and all of a sudden you no longer have any renters because all of them seem to have run out of money at the same moment, and there's nobody to buy the house that you were planning on flipping because no one's left to buy it because it's now worth 20% less than it was 6 months ago, literally, right? And you didn't sign up for any of that. That's not what you signed up for. But that's part of the journey.
Indeed. I mean, and that's, I can only underscore this so much. I mean, I don't often bring up my wife, but if it wasn't for her, I don't know that we would be here, simply because she had to go through this journey. They all do. The kids had to. I mean, everybody's got to be on board. There can't be even one person who's not on board. Now, they may not start out on board, but they can become, they can get on the ship, they can grab an oar, they can start rowing and figuring out how to level out those ups and downs. And that's part of the journey. I can't underscore that any more than what you've already done. But at the same time, conversely, when things are going down, that also creates opportunity. You guys have heard me again say, or even earlier in this episode, where there's chaos, there's cash flow. Those are the things that, begin to create opportunity. We occasionally need things to break to create opportunities for the new people who now can recognize it. Because if it just keeps going up, 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 and up, well, now we can't get in. But when it breaks, we can go, ooh, there's my opportunity. Now I can go take it.
And that's important to understand, that even when you have a downside yourself, it creates new opportunities, because in part because you're going to have to figure your way out of this mess.
Yes.
You are. I've had to do it. You've had to do it. Yeah. And some of it's been not much fun. But
no.
in getting out of that mess, you actually now learn how to take and act on an opportunity that looks really similar to the mess you just got in.
Yep.
Because that mess is going to happen for lots of people, and they're going to need to unload things. And now you have an opportunity, or not even unload things, but you just see that the opportunity is occurring in the economy.
Yep.
I mean, right now we're on the way up, but I guarantee you it won't take too long and we'll be on the way down. It's true. It's absolutely true, because we're at 0% interest rates. And at some point we got to go back to 4% with the Fed. And when we do, you got to see a stock market, and you're going to see effects on real estate.
Right.
Because you can't take interest rates up another 4%, and they can't stay here forever. We're now in a situation where we've been in this kind of low interest rate for 6 years now, and it won't last. You can't stay here. Japan couldn't stay here, and we have to come out of it, and there are going to be more opportunities that are created. And so that's the other thing, is the economy is not straight line. It's never going to be straight line. But you've got to learn how to identify opportunities in every economic environment and act on those opportunities, because they're right for you, because they're going to constantly be opportunities. It's a mindset that says there's no opportunities because this is happening.
Absolutely.
But when the economy is going down, you're going to find real estate opportunities that you didn't find when it was worth 20% more.
Nope.
And it's going to make sense because the cash flow finally works again.
Yep.
Right? So you got the risk appetite, and now that's what we're actually talking about now, is every what I call event risk. Every investment you can make, every decision you make with your business, there's a risk factor inherent in that decision itself that's separate from your comfort zone. So you need to be able to analyze that correctly, and that's looking at the upside and the downside we were talking about. And then third is your risk management, and that's a 1 to 10 scale. So good risk management is the risk is that you're going to sit down, and if you say you own an apartment building, you're going to review that on a periodic basis and look at all your numbers again and review what's going on, and reviewing the rents you're charging, reviewing what you're paying people in order to maintain it, and make changes as there's a necessity to do that. And also looking at, hey, has an opportunity occurred where I may be able to sell this at a profit I want to sell it at, and take that money and diversify and leverage in a new way and get into some investments that right now I couldn't. So it's better for me to go ahead and take my 30 or 40% gain and put it over here in this investment because I want to be over here now.
Absolutely. Call that equity management. And for those of you listening, I hope you're taking copious notes, because these are all the things that it goes into, whether it's a business you're looking to invest in and create cash flow or become a part of or invest your time in, or if it's real estate or stock, all of this stuff is part of it. And that's why we created, for those of you who have already taken advantage of begininvestingnow.com, you know about our investor assurance program, because that's exactly what we do. We stay with you month after month to help you make sure that you are managing your risk appropriately as you get these cash flow assets, because you don't know what you don't know, and it helps to have someone along the way. Now, I love everything that you're talking about. I think I have this feeling that you and I could talk for quite some time.
I was about to ask you. I'm going, well, wow, we've been going a while. We could talk forever. I think we could.
Yeah. So, but I know they want more too. And I know you set up a special site at consciousmillionaire.com/cash flow diary. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're going to put there so that they can go get it? And because I know they want it.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm really honored that my book's just been out a few months. It's become a bestseller in 2 categories. And that's really exciting. So I took this 320-page book and I made a smaller version that would introduce people that's about 50, 60 pages. And what I want to do is I want to give you that absolutely free, and then also give you 30 days that you can come in. And at my membership site, I've got about 17 videos that take you through how you implement things that I've been talking about, so that you can look at those in your business and investments, play them over and over again. And then we have interviews, we have training calls, we have blogs, we have behind the scene little videos. I want to give you all of that along with a miniature version of the book, so that you can take these ideas we've been discussing and starting to implement them in your life. And in fact, in the book, there's a whole series of coachings that occur. So they're all about taking action on what I'm discussing.
Excellent. And again, one more time, that's consciousmillionaire.com/cashflow diary. Do this, move at the speed of instruction. You guys know what that means. That means you're typing on your phone, you're going on your computer, you're doing it right now. You're making a note. So after you finish working out at the gym, you're going to go to consciousmillionaire.com/cashflow diary and begin understanding, begin growing, begin that personal journey. This is where it starts. And understand this, just because you paid no dollars for it, you still paid time. You still made an investment. And I'm asking you to keep making that investment, because it pays many, many more dividends than you could possibly imagine. But you got to get started. And I suggest you get started today. Now,
Yeah,
Jay, go ahead.
I want to interject something there, because you brought up an important factor. And early on, I was talking about that you want to create massive value, and that what you really want to create is 5-10 times, at least 5-10 times what somebody paid. And today, in today's world, lots of people have something they're giving away for free. And I bet you've had the same experience I have, where you reach a point that some of that free stuff is so valueless, it isn't even as valuable as your time being spent to even read it. Right?
Yes.
You go like, someone's going, oh, I want to give you this free something. You're going, yeah, but I don't really want it, because my time's more valuable than the fact I'm going to read something that has nothing in it of value.
Right.
There's nothing in there that's going to make me money, going to make me happier, going to give me better relationships. It's just going to be a bunch of fluff let's just call it what it is, right?
Right.
And so I want to guarantee everybody that's not what I've done. I've given you, I respect your time, and I'm using this as a lesson, because if you're setting up something to give somebody something for free, then you should respect the person enough to give them something that really is valuable. It's not just something you sat down and did in an hour and you don't really care anything about. You're going, oh, well, maybe I can get their email if I say these magic words. That's the kind of thing that over time isn't going to work, because nobody's going to spread word of mouth about something that doesn't give them value. It will backfire. It's not a good proposition. You need to respect that and to think about it on your own. That if I'm investing, even though I didn't pay dollars for something, I'm investing my time, I'm investing my focus, and you should expect that you're getting something. And if you're not, you should discard it, and you shouldn't pay any attention to it, because it's just stop reading it on page 5 because there was nothing of value.
Absolutely. My wife and I, what's pretty funny about that, we have a 20-minute rule. That 20-minute rule gets invoked anytime we're watching a movie that we're suspect on. So we've got 20 minutes. It's got to catch our attention within 20 minutes. If it doesn't, we shout 20-minute rule and it's done. And we save ourselves the last hour or hour and a half or whatever else it would have been, so that we can stay focused on only the movies that provide true entertainment value. So, yeah, there are many different ways to do that.
I have the same. When I did my MBA, I studied the concept called sunk cost. And all that means simply is that you've already spent the money. Can't get it back. So when you're looking at an investment, whatever you've already spent, that's your sunk cost. That should in no way, just because you have $30,000 into this, is no reason to put another 50 if the next 50 ain't going to produce anything better than the last 30. And I do the same thing with movies, even when I go to the movie theater. If I paid for it and I'm sitting there and I'm going, you know what? This is a waste of time. I'm going, I'm not getting my money back, but I can get the next hour back.
Yep.
And I just leave. I just get up and leave. I love to hear you talking about that, because it's the same thing I do.
This is awesome.
You can't. Even if you paid for it, you're not getting your money back. So just get your hour back and leave.
You can go make that money back. That hour is gone.
Oh, yeah. Use that hour to, and at least be happier.
I know.
Happiness, happiness has a lot of value.
Indeed, indeed. Well, it has been an absolute treat having you here. It's been an absolute, I can't even tell people just how excited I am when being able to meet and understand completely new people and just learning how much similarity there is regardless of the industry. You guys, you're hearing the same skill sets. Hopefully you're getting different perspectives, though, so that you can go out there and begin to build your cash flow, because that's what it takes. You got to start somewhere. And once you start, stay started so that you can continue to see the fruits of all of your results. Just like a farmer plants seed and has to wait for it to grow, you are no different. However, you must first plant the seed. The seed does not plant itself. And you've been listening to us for now a little bit of while, which is great. And that's just the beginning of the seed. Now take some action. Go over to consciousmillionaire.com/cashflow diary and take some action. You guys know exactly what to do. I'm looking forward to talking to all of you one more time, very much so, again, really, really soon. And I will talk to you guys later. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, cashflowdiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.